Today was day 886 of a 5K a day. That's 886 consecutive days of running at least 3.1 miles every single day. The goal right now is to get to 1,000. I'm running to make our society a more equitable place. There are a few things that give me motivation and inspiration to keep running. Number one is I look at a person like Ahmaud Arbery, who can never run again. I look at a person like George Floyd, whose life was taken senselessly right in front of us. I look at Breonna Taylor, who will never see her mother again. And I always think, if this was my last day, what would I want to do? That is something that really inspires me to get up and go every day, because I think, what if I could never do this again? This might be the last time I could do it. So I get up and go. I am from Sandusky, Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio. So I lived there for most of my childhood. Then my mom and I moved here to Columbus, Ohio. And that's where I'm living at now. So running, my mom was a runner, my sister was a runner. So I was always familiar with running, always been an athlete, always loved to play outside and everything. But my sports were really baseball and basketball. I remember my first real success with running came early on in elementary school. But I still didn't even think of running as like a real sport that I wanted to do on its own. But in junior high school, my baseball team, we went defeated. We did not win one game the entire season. So the next year I just went out for track and tried that. And from then on, I was just locked in on running, for the rest of high school. And then I just started becoming a student of the sport. And I was just really inspired by seeing people running really fast times. And I was nowhere near that level, but I was just like, maybe one day I could possibly get to that level. But I'll say my senior year of high school, there was this freshman, that came in by the name of Helif, and he was a phenom. So I started kind of training with him a little bit, and that's when I really started to take it more serious. And that's when I kind of started to see, okay, I think there's a future for me at the next level. My freshman year at Ohio State, I was a runner there coming into the team, running cross country and running track. Very excited about it, very eager. But what made it really challenging is when I would go into practice and coach would just be saying these off the wall remarks to me. We practice at 8 o'clock in the morning and he's looking at me and he's asking me like, "Are you high right now?" He's like, "Are you smoking weed?" And I'm like, "Why are you saying this?" And it wasn't like a one-time incident. Like, this was like almost daily he would be saying this to me. And at that time, I had dreadlocks in my hair, similar now, but, a little different. And he would be telling me like, "I'm gonna make you cut off your dreadlocks." So him making both of those comments to me on a regular basis, it just didn't make me feel comfortable. I didn't know how to best handle that situation, as a fresh 18-year-old. And at that time, like on the cross country team, I was the only black person that was on the cross country team. So I'm here, with a bunch of guys, and I already stand out because I'm the only black guy. I do have this semi-long hair. I have these dreadlocks. And the coach is just like, saying these things to me. And I just really did not understand, why him just being that authority figure would be saying that to me on a daily basis. So it was just a slow deterioration of our relationship. After that, I just decided I was done with running and I just didn't want to run anymore. So from 2011 to 2019, I never ran again. I didn't run 1 mile. I was just done with running completely. It was the furthest thing from my mind, because whenever I would run, I would have to be reliving my college experience as a runner. And that was just kind of traumatizing for me, to think about that. I really had a lot of disappointment in myself, honestly, because I know I was a talented runner, and I feel like I really wasted so much of my talent as a runner. And when I really sit down and think about that, it really hurts me. Shout out my guy Guillermo, you know who you are, but he was my coworker, and he was telling me how he was really struggling with running. He was like, I really want to run, but I struggle. And he knew I had a background in running from college, so he was asking me for some tips about running. And I was telling him, you should just try to get in a road race, schedule a 5K, just put it on the calendar so you have something to look forward to and you have a goal that you're working up to. I was like, you know what? If you want to run a 5K, I'll run it with you. So then I started doing a mile a couple days a week. I would just go out from my house and just run a mile. And that was really how I got back into it, just because, really a friend bringing me in, asking me for some advice. So then I started kind of building up to a 5K, where I'm just running a 5K most days. And then I had a friend challenge me. He said, I'm trying to do a 30-day challenge of a 5K every single day. And I'm like, bro, you are crazy. There's no way I'm gonna run every single day for 30 days in a row. That's just stupid. So then I wasn't even trying to do the challenge, but with COVID, I was running every day, running a 5K every day. And before I knew it, I had did 14 days in a row. So I was like, hey, we're almost halfway there. Let's try to get to 30. So now I got to 30, I was like, hey, I'm gonna just try to get to 50. And at that point I was done. I was like, okay, I hit 50, goal, mission accomplished, we're done. But right around that time is when the George Floyd murder happened. And just previous to that, a couple weeks previous to that, I had heard about the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. So following the George Floyd murder, there was a lot of social unrest, a lot of people started to organize around the country. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. I really want to be a part of this. But I was like, what can I really do to add value, to this situation? And at this time, I was getting more aware of the running community, the larger running community. And I saw how much people loved running, how much people gravitated toward running, I was like, I think I can use my runs for this. And I wasn't exactly sure, but I had also heard a couple years before about this platform called Pledge It, where people can pledge a donation for every event. So I was like, let's do this for running. So for every mile I run, I'm gonna ask people to pledge a donation. At this point, I had no history in fundraising. People didn't even know me as a runner anymore, but I saw an opportunity there. I saw okay, I can use my runs for good. So I started Miles for Justice. And I literally was just in the shower one day and it came to me. So I just started posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, texting people, just asking them, can you pledge a donation? Can you pledge a donation? And right off the bat, people thought it was a scam. But the good thing about what I was doing at that point, I was already at 50 days in a row on my running streak. So that already gave me some credence and some credibility. And that's really how the Miles for Justice campaign got started. When I decided to do the fundraiser, I knew I wanted to make a difference. I knew I wanted to do something positive, but I also knew I wasn't out there in the streets every day. So I wanted to help support and amplify the work of the people that were out there. So I found an organization, the Grassroots Law Campaign, and I identified them as the beneficiary. And they're working for justice for Ahmaud Arbery. They're working for justice for George Floyd. Ahmaud Arbery, that one really hit me personally. That one really touched me because at this point, when I found out about it, I was already over 30 days, into my run streak. And I was running in primarily white communities at that time. So I'm out here running, as this black guy in a white community. So I'm like, I don't know what people may think I'm doing running in that community. So hearing that about Ahmaud, it was broad daylight when he was shot down, in the middle of the street. And it really hurt me. It really touched me. It really moved me because I really saw myself in him. And then the George Floyd was really the catalyst because so many people, everyone saw his murder, almost live. It feels like it was broadcast across the country. And it was just so inhumane, seeing a knee on his neck. Ahmaud Arbery was really the inspiration because I really identified with his story so much. But George Floyd was really the catalyst that showed me like, yo, you can really do something. You can really make this happen. So the goal of the first campaign was to raise $5,000 and donate that money to the Grassroots Law. So we were successful in raising the $5,000. It was a real grind. It was a real struggle, but we did it. And as the campaign was going along, we were building more momentum and more momentum. So when that campaign finished, a lot of people kept coming to me and asking me, are you going to do a second campaign? And I hadn't really thought about it. It was so challenging to complete that first campaign out of the blue. But as more time went along, I wanted to continue the run streak. And the run streak is always more powerful when there's a real cause behind it. So that's when I'm seeing more and more stuff about the death of Breonna Taylor. I wanted to continue to uplift her name and uplift her story. So at that point, I felt the inspiration for Miles for Justice to say her name. I continued the run streak, ran every single day for Breonna Taylor, bringing awareness to her story, raising again another $5,000. And this time the money was donated to the organization Until Freedom. Until Freedom was on the ground on a weekly basis in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where the Breonna Taylor murder happened. And they were there organizing sit-ins, organizing protests, just really rallying the whole Louisville community. I'm kind of running around the Culver City community in Los Angeles, right? And I'm seeing these little free libraries everywhere around Culver City when I'm running. And I'm like, wow, these are so cool. I'm like, I would love to open one of these one day. And then one day in January, it just hit me. It's like, bro, you can open a little free library now. Because there's such a need for it. And that's when I decided to start Miles for Justice 3 little free libraries. Now, the inspiration behind that is because I'm seeing all of these little free libraries in these affluent areas. Now, when I go run in, lower income areas, I'm not seeing any little free libraries. So I'm like, let's open up little free libraries in marginalized communities, communities that you don't typically see one in. Again, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I just said, hey, we're gonna open up little free libraries. I'm raising $10,000 to open up 10 little free libraries, you know? And we're gonna fill each of those libraries with books that are representative of the community. So I just really wanted to show the youth and parents alike that there are books that you do like, you just haven't found it yet. I found this organization in New York City, the New York Restoration Project. So I formed a partnership with them and we were able to open 6 little free libraries in New York City. And I'm still looking to open up a couple little free libraries here in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm still looking to open up a couple libraries in Los Angeles, California. This story is more personal for me because it's a local story to Ohio, to Sandusky, Ohio, specifically where I'm from. And there's a man by the name of Dewitt McDonald Jr. And he has been incarcerated since 1995. Wrongly incarcerated, I believe, and all the evidence points to him being innocent. And he was due a parole hearing in 2011.
He's been in prison for nearly 3 decades. This week was supposed to be his last. But while family and friends waited hours outside the Richland County Prison, Dewitt McDonald never came out.
The law in Ohio states that you must have a parole hearing by the date you're first eligible. If you do not have a parole hearing by the date you're first eligible, you are thus being illegally held. A judge realized that and granted Dewitt's immediate release from prison in March of 2022. Come to find out, the Attorney General in Ohio, Dave Yost, issued an emergency stay order to block Dewitt's release. So Dewitt was not released. And when I saw that, it just raised a red flag for me. Right away, I knew this was it. This was the next Miles for Justice campaign. This is Miles for Justice 4, Acquit Dewitt. The first 3 Miles for Justice campaigns were really about the run streak and raising money. This campaign became really more about just getting Dewitt's freedom. The goal was to send letters to the Ohio Governor, Mike DeWine, and the Ohio Attorney General, Dave Yost. We were asking for the emergency stay order to be removed so Dewitt can be released as Judge Titone in Erie County ordered. We did a ton of research. A lot of the work was really behind the scenes. We were making public record requests after public record requests to get this information. And we were able to discover information that no one had ever discovered before on Dewitt's behalf. One of the best things about Miles for Justice 4 is just seeing how thankful Dewitt McDonald Jr. has been for us to do this campaign on his behalf and the awareness that we're bringing to his case. But Dewitt right now is a 58-year-old man who has been incarcerated for 28 years. He is no threat to society. He has never been convicted of any violent crime before this or even accused of committing a violent crime before this. He was framed for this crime and he is innocent. And we need the public to continue to show their support on his behalf to get his freedom. As I started the Miles for Justice campaign, I was raising money and I didn't have a community. I didn't have anywhere to go to raise money. So on social media, I just started looking for runners, and if I saw you were a runner, I would send you a message. And then I had one person who became a real good friend to me on social media, like really showing support, really showing a lot of love. And they introduced me to Jordan. I started following Jordan, started following her journey, started learning more about the indigenous community, natives, and the missing and murdered indigenous relatives, because that was something I had no idea about and I had never heard of. And seeing the work that she was doing to amplify that really gave me a lot of inspiration, in the work that I'm trying to do. She put out this post about starting this run collective. And when I joined the Rising Hearts Running with Purpose family, it really just gave me that community of people that I can bounce these ideas I have off of, that I can share when I'm having, a downtime, a down period. I'm feeling depressed right now, and they can kind of understand where I'm coming from because they're runners and they're also activists. I've been able to really connect with so many other runners who are running with purpose. There's real meaning behind each run and the reason why we all are running. So meeting Jordan and the Rising Hearts community and the Running with Purpose Run Collective somewhat has saved Miles for Justice. Like, Miles for Justice may not be around at this point, if it wasn't for the Rising Hearts and the Running with Purpose community. If I didn't have, this large community behind me that was pushing me and propping me up to keep going, I probably would have never made it this far on the run streak. I get so much love and so much inspiration from them. That really inspires me to keep going. At some point, the run streak may come to an end, but each day I wake up, I say it won't be today. And please believe me, there are many, many days I don't want to go run. Many days. But what really keeps me going is just knowing this is bigger than me. Miles for Justice is bigger than me. It's not about me anymore. It's about what I'm running for, and I'm running for justice. If I can do something to bring justice to my community, that's gonna help better the world. And every time I go out for a run, it's making a very small impact, but I know if I do that day after day after day, that will become a very large impact.